Gotta catch 'em all in this episode of Market Movers because today we got Pokemon. Stay tuned. Before we dive in to the individual cards that have been trending up lately, I do want to talk a little bit about the Pokemon card market. So earlier this year and also towards last year, there was an insane boom in the Pokemon market and cards started going ballistic to a point where they're even outpacing a lot of the sports cards in terms of growth. And I thought this was pretty insane. I remember the time everyone was going crazy over them. People who literally did not know a thing about Pokemon were throwing a lot of money in, especially dealers and also just buyers as well. It was a very crazy time, and the cards that used to be worth only $5 were becoming $100 Charizard cards, for example. So I thought that was pretty insane. And then, all of a sudden, things were going very well. And then as the market started to come down after this pump, it unfortunately dumped a little bit, and a lot of the cards lost an insane amount of value. This especially comes to cards like the Charizard base set card, for example, that was very hot and then very not. But, however, a lot of cards have gained a lot of value over time, and this one still gained value over time as well. So I want to look towards that, and today we're really going to be focusing on a lot of the cards that have moved up in the past couple months. The first card we're going to look at today is the Lugia card from Neo Genesis. Now this card is a very cool looking card if you haven't seen it before. It shows Lugia, which is a legendary Pokemon, followed by a nice little rainbow holo in the back on a white background card. It's a super awesome card if you want to go ahead and check it out. Here's a little picture. Anywho, as I digress, this card has gained a good amount of value, especially since all the other cards have been propped up. In fact, I remember people told me in Japan that Lugia was actually a very famous Pokemon. It's kind of like their Charizard, and it's very renowned. It's just one of those fan favorite Pokemon. Now, this card in May, some of them that weren't in the best condition were selling for around $50 in early May, and now towards the end of May, coming into June, they're actually have seen a little bit of a value bump, and I can definitely see why. If you can think about that as their Charizard, you can kind of rationalize why the price is where it is on this card. It's an awesome card, and this Pokemon is just very cool looking, and it's very strong with it being a legendary. If you played a lot of the games, you're very familiar with it. It's a super cool card, super cool Pokemon, and that's why it's been gaining value. The next card we're going to look at is super peculiar. The reason why is because it is a full art trainer card. This means that there's no Pokemon on the card, but there is a trainer standing in front of the card, and there's a nice little hollow background. Specifically, we're going to be talking about Marnie. You see, this character, for some reason or another, has been gaining a lot of hype in the hobby, and I think the reason why is because a lot of the anime shows, a lot of the anime girls tend to be very famous, and they have this certain aura on them, and this one just ended up popping up in terms of value. If we look at March, this card was probably a $10 to $20 card. The nice little pull from the set, nothing too big. And now it's selling for around $60 to $70, even upwards of $80. So I think this is pretty insane, and I wanted to report on it because it's a card that you really think wouldn't be worth that much, yet has gained a lot in the Pokemon card hobby. I know you've been waiting for this one, and now we're going to talk about some Charizard cards. The first Charizard card we're going to talk about is the Dark Charizard from the Team Rocket set. This card was made in 2000 and is one of people's actually favorite sets because it looks really awesome. A lot of the Pokemon have a dark prefix before the Pokemon name. For example, this card is Dark Charizard, and it looks absolutely amazing. Charizard is facing away from the camera as if he's turning towards the dark side, and this card looks super aesthetic. But I want to point something out that's very interesting, and it's that this card has multiple types. There is one type of the card, number 21 out of 82, which is a non-holo, and there's number 4 out of 82, which is the holographic version of this card. And I wanted to point this out because it's a little bit hard to tell in some pictures with which one is which. If you have them in front of them, it's very easy to tell due to the holo nature, but I wanted to point that out because it can get very confusing. Now, I wanted to go ahead and talk about this card because it's crazy how it has went up in price. They used to be, I believe, earlier around the $50 range, and now they've been scaling all the way up to about the $120 to $150 range for just one card. I find that pretty insane because this card's gained a lot of hype, but I do believe it's deserved it given that Charizard is one of the most hyped up characters in the anime. It had also a certain personality in the anime, being Ash's Charizard, so I find that pretty cool, and I'm glad to see the value rising there. The second Charizard that we're going to talk about today is the Fire Red Leaf Green Charizard EX. As a kid, I'd always wanted this card because it's very cool and just awesome looking. It always had this attack called Blast Burn that did like a ton of damage, and as a kid, I was just blown away by that. It was just one of my favorites, so I'm glad to go ahead and be able to report it in this market update. This card has went up tremendously since May. It was around $50 to $100 earlier in the month, and now towards June, we're seeing this card sell for even as much as around $300. Now, with this all being said, I want you to be very meticulous about this card and other EX cards, and the reason why is because they're very condition sensitive. They have a nice little hollow around the outside of the card, and it's very easy to scuff or damage it, or for them to have a surface scratch because it's very shiny and easy and super flimsy as well. So I want you to take that into account when looking for these cards, but they're super awesome. They look amazing on the eye, and they're an absolute classic. We're going to transition from some of the older stuff and go right back into the new and look at a card that's a rainbow rare. This is the Arceus Dialga Palkia card. It is also known as a tag team card because it features multiple Pokemon, and this card is also a secret rare. Now, Steven, what does that mean? This means that the card, if you want to really determine what a secret rare is, if you look at the number, the first number will be higher than the second number. For example, if there's maybe 150 cards in a set, and one card is labeled 151 out of 150, then it would be determined as a secret rare card. These cards are a lot rarer and a lot harder to pull. Anywho, going back into the card we are looking at now, I want to go over some of the prices. In early March, this was around a $30 card, and now, selling recently as of June 2nd, this card has came up to become a $50 card. So pretty interesting. If you see this card, now you can be aware of like what a rainbow rare is, also how to determine what a secret rare is, which is two very important tips for these newer cards. So I want to let you guys know about that, and the tag team cards have become a fan favorite. Another card we're going to go ahead and look today, and our final card of the day is Shining Gyarados. This card is from the Neo Revelation set. One of the very cool parts of a lot of the Neo cards that they look very interesting, and they're super cool cards to collect from the early 2000s. This one, however, is a Shining Gyarados, and from the little Shining set, where there are certain cards in Neo Revelations that were labeled as Shining, and they showed the Pokemon in a very interesting tint, and they're very aesthetic to look at and super cool cards to own. Going back to Gyarados, it is also one of those fan favorite cards. It's also very interesting because its predecessor, which evolves into it, is a Magikarp, and this card was actually one of the Pokemon was actually one of the weakest ones in the whole anime, and it's just funny to see how when you manage to evolve that card, it turns into this huge monster of the sea called Gyarados. It's a cool little interesting thing that Pokemon put in, where even though you might be, weak at first, you can always grow to become stronger. So that's a cool little tidbit that I wanted to let you guys know about, and to be on the lookout for this card, because in early May, they were selling for around $70 to $80, and now they've came up to way past the $100 range in some of them. So it's very interesting, and I want you guys to keep a lookout for this card and for this set, because there's a lot of valuable cards that you might not have known are that valuable. To summarize everything we talked about today, first off, we started off with an awesome little market overview, just to let you know what's been happening in the past couple months. And next, we went into specific cards and how they've been moving lately. And we used some eBay comps to go ahead and help us with some credibility and to have that there. So it wasn't like I was making up any information, and all of that is there. Before we go, though, I have one piece of information that I think is very interesting, and it's the way that Pokemon cards move. You see, it's unlike sports where these Pokemon will never get injured, they're never going to win the MVP, and they're kind of like always going to be there. But this is good and bad because that means a lot of things are based on speculation and just, I guess, the strength of Pokemon in the future. There's some people that are, a little bit bearish and say that, oh, it's just a game. But then again, there's a lot of great bullish arguments, such as that, like, Pokemon has been around for a while. It is one of the most, I think it's the most profitable gaming franchise, even ahead of stuff like Super Mario, which I think is pretty crazy, considering Super Mario is kind of like the basic and kind of like the way that like video games started, and then Pokemon with their trading card games and their video games really went ahead and just superseded even them, which I think is very insane. And I wanted to let you guys know that if you really like Charizard and just a lot about Charizard cards, I made an awesome video, and I'll show you guys the link and then the photo here as well for the video, where I went ahead and I bought a raw card and graded it and ended up coming back a PSA 10. Super cool story there, so please make sure to check that out. Alrighty guys, have an awesome day, catch them all, and we'll see you together for the next market video update. Peace.